Welcome to the NBA 2K G League show. I am your host, Varun Chari, and welcome to the show. So on today's episode, we are going to talk about the finals preview between the Stockton Kings and the Osceola Magic. Now, both teams are respectively very good. It's going to be a good matchup. We got Mac McClung, who was on Osceola last year as well, and we also got some guys from their team from even the previous year, like Alex Morales. Myron Gardner. I mean, we got some pretty good guys playing on this Osceola Magic team as well. And, then if you look at the Stockton Kings, you got like John Elmore, who was there last year. You got, Mason Jones. You got Scal Labissiere, Brian Bowen. They were different players that are coming back. And it's nice to see that, this was supposed to really be the finals that we were supposed to get last year. And to now get this year, it's going to be pretty exciting. Let's look kind of at each team, right? So, we know that Mac McClung is probably one of the best players, in the G League. He had 40 points against the Maine Celtics the other night. And, if he goes against Mason Jones, I mean, that's going to be a really great lineup. I mean, Mason Jones is a guy who, he's been between the NBA. He's, even played overseas in Europe, and he's been with different G League teams over the years. It's just going to be a fun matchup between those two guys. Then you look at guys like Terry Taylor and Jalen Slawson. I mean, these are guys who have the ability to shoot. They're forwards. They're about like 6'8", 6'7", and they play small ball, and they have the ability, to score in different facilities. I mean, both Slawson, Taylor, and especially look at Terry Taylor in the last game against the Austin Spurs. I mean, he's hitting threes like nothing. And even Jalen Slawson, he has the ability to also stretch the floor, and he also has the ability to really like go in and get a good dunk, and it's going to be a really good matchup there too. Let's look at the stats, right? Let's see Osceola. So Osceola, they are probably bottom 20 in defense, but what's interesting is also Stockton is also bottom 20 when it comes to defensive rating. But I think Stockton is best when they move the ball, because they are one of the top 3-point shooting teams in the league. I think they're about third or fourth in the G League when it comes to shooting threes. Against the Austin Spurs, their best times was when they moved the ball because they were able to shoot threes. I think that's one really strong thing about that team. Even Scal, sometimes he can shoot threes. I mean, sometimes he'll be at the mid-range. I mean, he's pick and pop. He's that type of player. They'll see that they'll kind of post him up at the high point, and then they'll use him as a facilitator for any guys who cut down towards the basket. And so that's going to be an interesting thing to see how Osceola defends that post up high and getting into the backdrop. It's going to be interesting what they do to defend that type of position. Now let's look at some of the guys who were with the Osceola Magic last year. Chris Walker, he's one of the oldest vets when it comes to the G League. I mean, he's also, like Chasson Randle actually, has been really in the G League for the past 10 years. He won a championship in 2019 with the Rio Grande Valley Vipers. He's bounced around with different teams. He's a Florida native, so it's pretty cool to see that he's with Osceola right now. And, looking at Osceola's team for this year, the new guys they added was Javonte Smart, Ethan Thompson, Jared Culver, Jalen Slawson. Arguably, they had a lot of really talented players who, if you really look at it, were probably the top player or, one of the top players on their G League team from the year before. Jared Culver was one of the top players with Rio Grande Valley. Javonte Smart was one of the top players for the Delaware Bluecoats when he was with the 76ers on a two-way. You can also look at Ethan Thompson, who was a really good player with the Mexico City Capitanes last year. And, looking at this roster and these guys, I mean, some of these players predate all the way to their Summer League roster. Jared Culver played with the Magic during the Summer League time, and that Magic Summer League team was stacked with a lot of, big G League players who are top, either former NBA players who are top players in the G League. And, I think it was a smart move. But the question going into, the G League season was, how are all of these guys going to work together? Because they were the top players on their G League team. And, that I think Osceola, they were having a really bad record. I mean, going into the showcase, they were one of the worst teams. And they really were able to turn it around. I mean, they made a trade getting Trayvon Scott, who they got Patrick Gardner from Long Island, and that, I think that worked out. But the big move I think it's seen in this finals matchup is Colin Castleton. because Colin Castleton returned home to Osceola. He returned back to Florida, where he's from, and him playing for Osceola was a huge addition because Castleton has the ability to pass the ball. I mean, he's a really good center. And then he gets called up to the 76ers. He also got called up to the Toronto Raptors. So getting Castleton and getting Gardner, it added some great center depth that I think this team really needed, after the tip-off tournament. And to be able to bring those guys in, it ended up helping this roster a lot. And so I think that has been pretty interesting to see the turnaround that they had. I was at the showcase. I was talking to some people, and some people thought that this team was pretty much gonna be sellers. They were gonna get rid of a lot of the guys on their team, but they didn't do that. They stayed packed. I mean, they kept their team together. And if you look also for guys like Mason Jones and Scalabisi here, this could be their last time really with the Stockton Kings for all we know. I mean, first of all, Mason Jones is in his last year on a two-way contract. So he is no longer eligible to be on a two-way contract after this season. And so, he won't, if Sacramento really wanted to bring him back, they would have to give him a 15-man roster spot. But then if you look also at Scalabisi here, this is his second year with the Stockton Kings. Now, the nice thing is he did get a 10-day contract with Sacramento this season when Domantas Sabonis had gone down and they needed some extra big men. But, this could be the last game for some of these guys who have been with the team since 2023. Similar situation with Mac McClung. Mac could technically come back to the Magic on a two-way for next year because he has one more year of two-way eligibility, but it depends if Orlando really wants to bring him back. So this could also be his last year, maybe with the Magic, or honestly it could be his last year in the G League for all we know. I mean, we never know what's going to happen next. And for other guys like Alex Morales, Myron Gardner, and Chris Walker, who've been with the team since 2023. It'll be interesting what happens next, but it's going to be a great matchup, and I am super excited. So, who do you think is going to win? What does each team need to do to win this finals? Let me know your thoughts below. But this is the NBA 2K G League show. I'm your host, Varun Charya, and if you watch this video, feel free to subscribe, like, or dislike because, hey, you do you. So, thank you for watching and have a great day.